Hey guys, welcome to Through the Bible Verse by Verse, a plain and simple study of the entire Bible, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse. We are in Deuteronomy chapter 2, and it is popularly known as the second law, but it's actually not a second law. It is a final address and exhortation to the law, an address and exhortation to people to follow God as they prepare, as the Israelites prepare to enter into the promised land. So we're going to go over some of the things of the law, but mostly it is the exhortation, command, and warnings to obey, warnings if they don't obey, and a heartfelt exhortation to obey God's command as they prepare to go into their own land surrounded by pagan influences. All right, so let's continue chapter 2, and this is still Moses. In chapter 1, he began to rehearse their journeys, and now he is rehearsing their journeys again continually. And it seems like too that he might be starting from the present and kind of going back to time. But anyway, chapter 2 verse 1. So he says, "Then we turned back and headed for the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea, as the Lord had told me. And we traveled around the hill country of Seir for many days. And the Lord then said to me, 'You've been traveling around the hill country long enough. Turn north. Command the people you are about to travel through the territory of your brothers, the descendants of Esau, who lived in Seir. They will be afraid of you. So you must be very careful. Don't fight with them, for I will not give you any of their land, not even an inch of it, because I have given Esau the hill country of Seir as a possession. You may purchase food from them with silver, so that you may eat, and buy water for them to drink. For the Lord your God has blessed you in all the work of your hands. He has watched over your journey through the immense wilderness. And the Lord your God has been with you this past 40 years, and you have lacked nothing." You remember Esau was Isaac's brother. So it's kind of interesting, again, how God is guiding them. And like I say, there's details sometimes that we're getting now that we didn't have before when they was actually telling the story. But I think one of the biggest things is you see how God is the one that is guiding their steps. Verse 8, "So we bypassed our brothers, the descendants of Esau, who lived in Seir. We turned away from Arabah road and the Arabah road, and from Elath and Ezon Gibber. Now we traveled along the road to the wilderness of Moab." Now again, I did not bother to try to get all of these names, the pronunciation of these names correct. So if you want a better pronunciation, let me defer you to the Bible apps, and a lot of them have the audio versions. Those guys studied and practiced pronunciation of these names. I haven't, so forgive me for that. Verse 9, "The Lord said to me, show no hostility towards Moab, and do not provoke them to battle, for I will not give any of their land as a possession, since I have given Er as a possession to the descendants of Lot." Though, verse 10, the Emmy, a great and numerous people as tall as the Anakim, had previously lived there. They were also regarded as Rephaim, like the Anakim, though the Moabites called them Emmy. Now, this is kind of interesting. We don't have a lot of detail. I'm not going to linger here. Notice he said that these were tall people. And notice how they are referred to, Rephaims, Anakims, but not angels. So if you go back to Genesis 10, you see why I'm making this point here. Verse 12, "The Horites had previously lived in Syria, but the descendants of Esau drove them out, destroying them completely and setting their settling in their place, just as Israel did in the land of his possession to the Lord has given them. The Lord said, now get up and cross the Zered Valley. So we crossed the Zered Valley. The time we spent traveling from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed the Zered Valley was 38 years, until the entire generation of fighting men had perished from the camp, as the Lord had sworn to them. Indeed, the Lord's hand was against them to eliminate them from the camp until they had all perished. And over the 38-year period of time, it says, when all the fighting men had died among the people, the Lord spoke to me, today you're going to cross the border of Moab at Ar. When you get close to the Amorites, don't show any hostility to them or fight with them, for I will not give you any of the Amorites' land as a possession. I have given the possession to the descendants of Lot. This too used to be regarded as the land of Rephaim, and the Rephaim lived there previously, though the Amorites called them Zamzummim, a great and numerous people, tall as Anakim. The Lord destroyed the Rephaim at the advance of the Amorites, so that they drove them out and settled in their place. Now, again, verse 22, one of the things that's interesting about this is, even though this is not a part of the journeys of Israel, we get just a snapshot, just a little snippet here of God doing things, right? God ruling in the kingdoms of men. Okay? Now, in other words, this had nothing necessarily to do with Israel, but we still see God regulating, okay, these nations, these people. Verse 22, this was just as he had done for the descendants of Esau who lived in Seir. When he destroyed the Herites before them, they drove them out and have lived in their place until now. Now, they lived there because God gave it to them. And the interesting thing is, they may not even have been aware that God was the one ruling from the heavens. All right, verse 23. The Caphatorim, who came from Caphator, restored the Avim, who lived in the villages of Gezer, and settled in their place. The Lord also said, get up and move out and cross the Arnon Valley. See, I have handed Sihon, the Amorite king, and Heshbon and his land over to you. Begin to take possession of it. Engage him in battle. Today, I will begin to put the fear and the dread of you on the people everywhere under heaven. They will hear the report about you, tremble, and be in anguish because of you. And this is certainly true, which is, as I said before, the irony is that the Israelites, the first generation of Israelites, who said that the other people were afraid of the other people, as it turns out, it was the other people who were afraid of them. Verse 26. So I sent messengers with an offering of peace to Sihon, king of Heshbon, from the wilderness of Kedemoth, saying, Let us travel through your land. We will keep strictly to the highway. We will not turn to the right or to the left. You can sell us food in exchange for silver, so we may eat, and give us water for silver, so we may drink. Only let us travel through on foot, just as the descendants of Esau, who lived in Seir, did for us, and the Moabites who lived in Ar, until we crossed the Jordan into the land of the Lord, the land the Lord our God is giving us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, would not let us travel through his land, for the Lord your God has made his spirit stubborn and his heart obstinate, in order to hand him over to you, as has now taken place. Then the Lord said to me, see, I have begun to give Sihon and his land to you. Begin to take possession of it. So Sihon and his whole army came out against us for battle at Jahaz. The land the Lord our God handed him over to us, and we defeated him, his sons, and his whole army. At that time, we captured all his cities and completely destroyed the people in every city, including the women and children. We left no survivors. We took only the livestock and the spoils from the city we captured as plunder for ourselves. Now, if you remember, they did more than that, but this is just a kind of a general recapping. So if you want the other details, you go back and you read the other story, that they were chided, Moses chided them for taking the women. Verse 36, there was no city that was inaccessible to us from Aram for Ariel to the rim of Anar valley along the city in the valley, even as far as Gilead. The Lord our God gave us everything, but you did not go near the Amorites' land all along the bank of Jabbok River, the cities of the hill country, or the place, or any place that the Lord our God had forbidden. Now I'm going to go to chapter 3, because again, it's the same chapter. He's rehashing the travels. It says, then we turned and went up the road of Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, came out against us with the whole army to do battle at Edrei. But the Lord said to me, do not fear him, for I have handed him over to you, along with his whole army and his land. Do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. So the Lord our God also handed over Og, king of Bashan, and his whole army to us. We struck him until there was no survivors left. We captured all his cities at the time. There wasn't a city we didn't take from them. 60 cities, the entire region of Argob, the king of Og in Bashan. Now, 60 cities, that's a huge city, if you think about it. Now, there probably were smaller villages, but just to kind of give you a scope, in a lot of your metropolitan area, they have about 60. 60 would be a lot. Now, as I said, these were probably anywhere from smaller villages to cities. Who knows? 100 people, 200 people, we don't know. But 60 is a lot. Verse 5. All these were fortified with high walls, gates, and bars, besides a large number of rural villages. We completely destroyed them, as we had done to Sihon, king of Heshbon, destroying the men, women, and children in every city. But we took all the livestock and the spoil from the cities as plunders for ourselves. And at that time we took the land from the 2 Amorite kings across the Jordan, from the Anar valley as far as Mount Herod, which the Syrians called Siron, but the Amorites called Sinir. All the cities of the plateaus, Gilead and Bashan, as far as the Silicon and Edrei cities of Og, kingdoms in Bashan. Only Og, king of Bashan, was left of his remnant of the Rephaim, and his bed was made of iron. Isn't it Rahab of the Amorites? Isn't it in Rahab of the Amorites? It is 13 feet 16 inches long and 6 feet wide by the standards of measure. So a pretty big bed. Okay, that's 13 feet. Think about it. All right, 13 feet 16 inches. That's a huge bed. But it also said that he was a big man too, a large, tall man. 12. At the time he took possession of this land, I gave to the Reubenites and Gadites the area extending from Ar by the Aon Valley, and half the hill country of Gilead along with its cities. I gave to the half tribe of Manasseh, to the rest of Gilead, and all the Bashan, the kingdom of Og, the entire region of Agob, and the whole territory of Bashan used to be called the land of Rephaim. Jar and the descendants of Manasseh took over the entire region of Agob as far as the border of Gershonites and Mershonites. He called Bashan by his own name, Jar's villages, as it is today. I gave Gilead and Marshar, and I gave the Reubenites and the Gadites the areas tending the Gilead and the Aron Valley. The middle of the valley was the border up to Jabbok River and the borders of Amorites. Now, I'm just glossing over this, but you remember the two 2.5 tribes of Israel settled on the. They did not go into the promised land per se. That their land were on the very side of the Jordan River that Moses was speaking. Verse 17, the Arabah and Jordan also borders the Chinnereth, as far as the Sea of Arabah, the Dead Sea, under the slopes of Pesach on the east. Now again, let me just say this. If you got a good study Bible, you can look at Bible maps and look at the Old Testament maps, and you'll see what he's talking about here. I commanded you at that time, the Lord your God has given you this land to possess. All of your fighting men will cross over the battle formation ahead of you, your brothers and the Israelites. Now, he's talking about the Reubenites and the 2.5 tribes that decided to stay on this side. Their fighting men were going to go over, and it would be like a 5-year journey. Verse 19, but your wives and your young children and livestock, I know that you have a lot of livestock will remain in the cities I have given you. And the Lord gives rest to your brothers, as he has said to you, and they also take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving them across the Jordan. Then each of you may return to his possession that I have given you. Now we'll see some kind of issues that will come up with them later, okay, that on the other side of the Jordan. Verse 21, I commanded Joshua at that time, your own eyes have seen everything the Lord your God has done with these 2 kings. The Lord will do the same to all the kingdoms you are about to enter. Don't be afraid of them, for the Lord your God fights for you. And if you remember too, this is one of the reasons why God does these things, okay? As to give them sort of strength and encouragement. If God would do this, they should have had this with Egypt. In other words, if God can destroy the mighty empire of Egypt, everything else should have been a piece of cake. Verse 23, at that time I begged the Lord, Lord God, you have begun to show your greatness and power to your servant. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can perform the deeds and mighty acts like yours? Please let me cross over and see the beautiful land on the other side of the Jordan, that good hill country of Lebanon. For the Lord was angry with me on account of you, and would not listen to me. The Lord said to me, that is enough. Do not speak to me again about this matter. Go to the top of Pisgah and look to the west, north and south and east, and see it with your own eyes, for you will not cross this Jordan. But commission Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, for he will cross over ahead of this people and enable them to inherit the land that you will see. So we stayed in the valley facing Beth Peor. Now, kind of interesting here with Moses, right? Notice he said he kept asking the Lord, and I kind of get Moses. Remember, Moses seeing the Lord face to face, but Moses was under the law. Moses disobeyed, and God judged him according to the law. He would not let him go. What is also interesting is, remember, think about what Moses did. He didn't commit the sin of the golden calf, right? But he disobeyed God under the law. And as a result, he didn't go into the land. He didn't go into the promised land. And he begged God, come on, I'm your man, Lord. I'm your man. God said, no, you cannot go. You. So anyway, it's kind of sad because Moses wanted to go, and the best that God did was, I'll let you see it, but you can't cross over this Jordan and go into it. All right, guys, chapter 4 in the next study. I'll see you then.